Right then, today, today's video, we're going to be taking the standard struts off this Polo, and we're going to be fabricating and welding these air ride struts onto them. Let's go. This is the strut assembly on the Polo. I've already cut up the one side, so I'll show you what I've done, because I have to figure out how to do this before I started recording, otherwise it would have taken ages. So basically what I have done, first off, I cut the steering arm 10mm from the bottom ish, thereabouts, something like that. Cut that whole assembly off because I won't be needing that anymore. I've already had the measurements, so when this face is flat against the deck, we've got 140mm from the centre of that hole to the deck. I've not done it on this, I've done it on a flat bench at my brother's house. So 140mm, so I remember that, so I know that Ackerman angle, if that's the right term, will be right for the angle of that steering arm. So obviously if you imagine this used to be in there, and obviously the top half, but then once I cut that steering arm off, I was just left with this. So then took this hole sawed both sides out, and then I was left with this. So I'm going to cut this down to this line, and I'm going to have to machine this surface smaller, the diameter of this slightly smaller, because originally these air ride struts, they're basically a sleeved system. So theoretically, when this is done, this unthreaded part of the shock should be able to slip into this shock body, basically, because it's hollow, and that should be able to slip in there. And then obviously the steering arm piece threads off, and we've got a thread inside there that I can weld to, so I don't heat up the gases and the oils or whatever it's inside that. Yeah, when I ordered them, I originally thought, right, so the bottom of this, so this doesn't actually slip on. What does slip on though is the thread part. So the thread, this actually does slip in. That part does slip in. So what I found out is, just here, the diameter of this shock tube narrows down. So what I'm gonna have to do is, I've cut off all this assembly, all the shock, cut off the shock mount off the old one, basically cut off this whole tube up here. I'll be able to machine that then and weld it into this collar. So if you imagine, that's going to be in there, that diameter is going to be turned down, so then I can slip this inside of there to there. This will be cut off here, so there'll only be 10mm of this inside of here. There's not much to come off, it's probably only a mil or two to come off to make it slip inside. So that's only so when that slips inside there, basically weld that whole assembly then, weld that whole assembly inside there at that level. So that measurement from the top of the hub to the bottom of the steering arm is 40mm. That's what the most coilovers and stuff seem to use, that's for sale. So I'm going to go with that measurement, and I hope it's right. Should be better than what's on the car, because at the moment the ones on my car look like this. They're welded on tight like that, so the steering arms are a heck of an angle, and it just feels shit to drive. So yeah, that's what the game plan is. So let's get on to this strut. I'll put you in the tripod and we'll get to cutting.
1 week later.
So I've had these machined by my mate, so got it all mocked up in my makeshift bench. So this part will slip into the coilover sleeve I've got. So this part right here basically looks like this part, and then this flat edge is button up nicely against the bottom of this collar. And then with the bottom part, which is the bottom of the old strut, he's lathed it down for me to the internal diameter of this, so it slips in nicely. So that's the gist of it. Obviously this will be rotated up to the right angle and stuff, but just so I've got it propped up at roughly the right angle. 40mm from the bottom of this steering arm to the top. That's the bottom of that tape. This is the collar, and then this bit I've cut this one down to size, so it slips into there about 5mm, and then we can weld this up in here. I'll probably fill all this in with weld because this sleeve now is only about 1 mil thick, so I'll probably weld all that up, do a fat weld before welding into the strut. I need to tack everything in place, obviously, because this has this has a rotation on it. So I've drawn a line, and and I need to line up the weld with the weld on here, basically, when I weld that together. So yeah, that's the next step. I'll get this cut into the other strut body over there, and then yeah, we can clean everything up and go and weld them together. So see you in a bit.
Several days later.
Right, it's been a few days since the last sped up clip you've seen, and basically around in that clip I was discussing with my brother that this collar is the hole's obviously too big, so we needed to know the angle of how to weld this into the hub. So I've taken the old strut off my car, and so this part is untouched. Somebody's done some bodging up there, but I can get the angle off this, so I ordered one of these. If I zero that gauge there, I know that I now need to, it varies about from 2.9 to like 3.1, so I need to weld my struts at a 3-degree angle compared to the flat deck. So that's what I'm going to do basically. So I've already tacked one up so you can see. So this is basically what we're going to be working with. So it's tacked up, so I just need to take this back out now and weld up these two fully, and then I can slide it back in, put it back in the jig, and you'll see that in the video. And yeah, it will be fully welded up. So that's the plan. So I'm just gonna do that again, tack up this left hand side one, get all that all tacked up and the right angles, and then I'll fully weld them all. So right, so I'm just in the middle of stripping the old suspension off and the steering arms off the car. So both struts are off, steering arms are off, and strut number 2's off. I got them down here on the floor, just to do some diag really, because these handled so badly on the road that I want to try and figure out on video why they were so bad. I think I know what the answer is, knowing what I know now about how the geometry of these steering arms and stuff. So I'll talk you through it now. So like I said before, these steering arms have been welded directly to the top here, which meant that the steering arm angle was a lot steeper compared to what it's meant to be. On mine, obviously, I've kept them 40mm up. That's what TA coilovers and some of the coilover brands tend to do. So like I did before, if I just measure up roughly here, so to the centre of that hole, 14 and a half, that one, and then this one is, yeah, look at that, that one's 16 and a half, well that one was 14 and a half. So this one actually wasn't bad, it's only 5mm out, but then that one's 2 centimeters out. I'll just stick in a tripod and you can visually see how different these are. So if I were to put them the same, like that, there you go, you can kind of see it there. So that's probably the reason why the car probably kept trying to throw me into a ditch whenever I hit a bump, because those two angles aren't talking with each other and it just wants to throw the car left, right. So that's probably why. And then another reason is probably I had to literally hammer these top caps. I've loosened them off now, but those O-rings in there were literally like concrete onto the shafts. This shaft is it's coming up and down all right, but then this bag is well and truly knackered. I mean, that's not meant to happen. So the only thing that was, I had to hammer this top cap off of like I had to WD-40 and hammer the shaft down. Oh, it wants to come out though. But yeah, it's not healthy, it's sticking. And then probably didn't help when those top caps are literally glued onto the shafts. So I'm putting 2 and 3 together, and I'd say that's hopefully going to be my bump steer and a lot of my steering issues. The steering arms are definitely dead as well, because the bushes are toast. There's loads of play in the bushes, even though they're brand new arms. There's loads of play in them, so I'm glad I'm doing some rose joint ones. I've got the steel here for them, so I'm gonna make some new shiny new steering arms with those and the rose joints in a video to come soon. So yeah, just like that, we have them done. Off camera, I've done a few bits, so I pressed in some new wheel bearings, got the stub axles in, and I also cut the steering arm shorter, like I was talking about before, and re-drilled the hole at the correct length from the centre of the shock body. Give them a coat of epoxy primer and then some satin black. They come out looking amazing. Got a good weld on there. Try and get some light there to see it. There you go. And then got the inside or the back side then as well. So that's that. So there's not much else to do but get them fitted onto the car and let's do it. So there we have it. They are finally on and they are looking awesome. Steering arm angle or height is a lot better. Before we were all the way down here and can actually see on the chassis leg where when I jacked up the car, the steering arm that comes off the rack was actually resting on here. Now this is drooped all the way down, and you're not going to have any issues with that rubbing on there. But for now, let's get the tram onts back on the car and see how much lower we're going to be when we're fully aired out, and also see our new ride height, because I can see straight away that we are going to be a lot lower on the ride height. Right, so the trouble I was running into is, because I don't have any tyres on and I don't have the air lines hooked up, I can't actually get the jack out when it's, obviously when I'm lowering it down, it's like it's airing out at the same time, so it's going so low I can't get the jack out, so I'm going to have to just jack up the bottom arm, which I should have just done in the first place, and then we'll see how high the wheel goes up in the arch instead. That's it for this video. That's the front struts welded into the old hubs, and we have some new air ride struts on the Polo. As for seeing them on the ground, you're gonna have to wait until I got some tyres on the tram onts and I've got some airline fittings for the front struts. But yeah, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.